With Mother's Day being just around the corner, I decided to do a series on motherhood. We'll be talking about how we define being a good mom, what discipline strategies work, and which ones don't. But most importantly, in what ways are mothers helping to shepherd their children's hearts toward God? It is a hope that throughout this series, you will find yourself encouraged, challenged, and maybe even cherished. For the first episode of our Mother's Day series, I'll be talking with my friend, Sara Chauhan.
Hey guys.
Sara is the mother of 3 beautiful girls with 1 more on the way. She is a stay-at-home mom, and she makes Facebook videos for her page, Simple Eats with Sara, where she shows not-so-kitchen-savvy people like me how to make tons of yummy things to eat and how to use the Pampered Chef products and how they can make it all so simple. And as a Pampered Chef consultant, Sara really can tell us all about their products. But the best part of her videos are her girls. You can often see the heartwarming and hilarious bloopers and all the real moments with Sara interacting with her children as they all help to prepare the meals. So if you haven't seen her page, go check her out at Simple Eats with Sara. You won't regret it.
Thanks for having me.
Alrighty. So now we got the plugins and all that kind of stuff there. I am so excited to have you here. And Sara, you just have the most 3 beautiful daughters, and you still have that one on the way, right?
I have 1 on the way, yes.
Yeah.
There's 6 and 4 and 2, so all pretty close together.
Yeah, and that woman in the womb. And it's due in August?
At the very end of August, so a hot summer ahead of me.
Yeah. Maybe it'll be a September birthday. I don't know. Maybe.
We'll see.
We'll see. Hopefully not, though. All right. So do you think the 4th one will also be a girl?
We are not going to find out. We are just going to be surprised.
Crazy person.
You would think. I found out for all of the other 3. And with the 4th one being our last, it's just, let's just have a good surprise. It's either going to be a really big surprise or a surprise.
Well, something good either way.
Very.
Man, I'm so happy for you. I don't think I could ever do that, even if I had 3 or 4.
I don't think I would have ever done it either. I'm a planner to a T. So
yeah.
Definitely different.
So have you always wanted to be a mom?
Yes. As long as I can remember, that has been what I've wanted to do. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom from a very early on age. So that's what I am now.
2.
Like maybe 18 months.
Okay.
Maybe not that young, but
yeah.
As young as I can remember. My mom was a stay-at-home mom with us. And so that just made it for me.
Oh, okay. So your mom stayed home with you guys too. How nice. So before becoming a mom, did you have any specific expectations of what you thought motherhood would be like?
I'm not sure what my expectations were, honestly. I knew that there would be easy things and then harder things, maybe some not so fun along the way. But I think our journey to becoming parents really shaped my expectations of it. We went through a long stint of infertility, and it was really rough. So our first pregnancy after a miscarriage and the infertility, it was a scary time. Anxiety was just prevalent. And so I think that really shaped our expectations of that. If this is the only child that I get to parent, I'm going to soak it all up, every single moment of it.
Yeah. Wow. I'm so sorry you had to go through all that. How long did you and Varun deal with infertility?
We went through probably 3 years, maybe a little bit more we had a miscarriage and then through IVF and all of that before we finally got pregnant with our oldest.
Wow. Wow. That definitely sounds like a journey there, but I'm glad, God blessed you guys with your girls.
Yes.
I think you're just the best mom ever.
Well, thanks. Some days. Some days not so much. They keep us busy for sure.
Yeah. But this leads me to my next question. How would you describe yourself as a mom?
Some say, oh, I'm a soccer mom, and that is not me. I was that for maybe 1 season and quickly found out that that is not my girls' thing or my thing, because when rules are broken, I cannot keep my mouth shut. So honestly would say I'm just a real mom. Some days I have it all together. Some days I fly by the seat of my pants. And so you just can't plan every aspect of every day. And so I've definitely learned that you have to be flexible.
I love that. The real mom, Miss Authentic. When I hear you say all that, I just naturally take a big exhale. It just brings so much comfort not having to have things picture perfect all the time. And just thank you for having that perspective.
Yeah, I never want to come across as having it all together, because I definitely do not.
Yeah. And I think some of that's also maybe with age a little bit too, because I know for myself, I used to be like really rigid and plan.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to have it to the T. And over time, I kind of relaxed that too. So I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit of both. But for me, like I'd say I would call myself the relaxed mom. I just not with rules. Like we're gonna follow the rules,
Right?
Okay, and have
to have rules.
Have to have rules. But for me, I purposely choose not to panic about the small stuff, or things that even could be a big thing. I'm just choosing not to make it a big deal.
Yeah.
I just don't want that to be an atmosphere of panic and anxiety for my son and hopefully my household. Or like,
sure.
That's my intent. So
right. And not the typical first mom perspective, if you say so. That's great.
Yeah. Well, yay. I guess maybe, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how far that goes for me. Okay. But being a real mom, what do you find it to be the hardest part?
This is probably the easiest question. It's discipline every single time. That has been the hardest area for me because it's just a lot of the times just downright hard and not fun, especially with 3 so close. But when you see them adjusting and correcting on their own and knowing what is right and wrong, it just makes it worth it.
Wow. I mean, that does sound really hard, especially with 3. And that kind of leads me again to my next question about like, what is your discipline style?
I really don't know that I have a particular style. It's so dependent on the child because they're so different. All 3 of mine are just so different. And so the biggest thing that I try to practice is consistency and then setting expectations from the start. None of us, even as adults, we do better with clear expectations and healthy boundaries. And so I try to
Agreed.
Set that. Yes, for sure. So my girls know if I do this, like example A, then this is going to happen. At the same time, each of them are so different, like I said. And so what works for one is not going to work for the other.
Bummer.
Right? If only it was cookie cutter. And so with the 4th one that's coming, it'll be no different. I will have to really learn its disciplined style that works.
Yeah.
It's just right. And it's just a constant learning and adjusting and seeing what works and what does not.
So there's never like an arrived moment.
I have not found that. If someone has found that, let me know. Write a book.
Yeah, please.
But what has worked well in a lot of cases is preparing them for what is going to happen. That's definitely something that is from me being a speech therapist, first of all. Just setting those expectations, walking them through what's going to happen. It just takes the guesswork out of the equation. And then they know what to expect and how we plan to do things along the way.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that note. I think we both learned from our teacher days, with you and your 8 years of the speech language pathologist and me as an elementary teacher, that setting clear expectations,
right,
expectations, very clear. Because let me tell you, the little ones, they will catch you on that if you're not clear about what you said. But also maintaining that consistency, is key to not living in chaos. So I love that you mentioned that, and that adults need clear expectations too. I mean, we do. I think this is just a reminder for us to help us remember that, and just keep putting that kind of stuff in perspective with our kids.
Definitely.
That, in some ways they are little adults, but in a lot of ways they're not. But in that aspect, like that's something that we all need, is clear expectations.
For sure.
Yeah. Even though Asher is only 15 months old, like I noticed a difference in his behavior when I take the time to tell him what's going on around him. Like he'll be fussy and tense or just anxious. And then I explain to him that we're getting ready for a bath or getting dressed for school, right, stuff like that. And he just tends to kind of calm down most of the time.
It's not a cure-all, but it helps.
Yeah, it does help. But I'm just dying to know, like with having 3 young girls, all similar in age, and yet so different in personalities.
Very.
How do you juggle applying different discipline to each one? Do you think they ever view things as unfair?
Yes, they have already started saying that's not fair. And their least favorite phrase that I say every single time is life is not fair. I want them to know that from the get-go. Life's not fair. It never will be. But even though they're not fans of it, I still say it. And I try to explain that expectations are different especially for my older two versus my 2-year-old, and that eventually she'll have those same expectations that they currently do.
Yeah. That's really good. And I think this is good that you've been, do you use that actual vocabulary with them, expectations, or just like different rules?
Different rules.
Different rules. Yeah.
Expectations I can use with my 6-year-old.
Yeah.
4-year-old, not so much.
Yeah, not so much. Yeah, but at least you're acknowledging that for them, because I think
Mm-hmm.
it probably helps that bridge that gap there.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So how would you define being a good mom? Like, what does that mean to you? And what does a good mom look like?
I think a good mom leads by example, first of all. So whatever you want your kids to do, you actually do it yourself. And so I see the good and the not so good traits of me coming out of my girls every day. It's very humbling, but it's always a reminder to me to lead by example and demonstrate the good and the true and the kind and gentle things that I want them to be. I think it's important to show them when I get it wrong too, which is often. And so apologizing to them, telling them why I was wrong is important for all of us. And a good friend told me that you need to apologize to your kids along the way. And I have definitely appreciated that wise word.
Yes, sister. And I just 100% agree with such wise words on that. You know, I really like that you choose to model apologizing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're right. Like it's a huge part of life, and just learning how to maintain relationships and what restoration looks like,
Right.
which is important later on when we're learning about Jesus.
Yes.
You know, and the only way our children can learn, you know, how to take responsibility for their actions is from us.
Right.
So, and apologizing is a big part of that. So just bravo, Mom. I think that's awesome.
Thanks. Definitely was not my idea, because apologizing is hard for everybody.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something that needs to be done
Mm-hmm.
and modeled.
So what do you think God expects from others?
I know this sounds cliche because it is used so much, but Proverbs 31, see that as just a set of clear guidelines and expectations for not just moms, but as women and wives, whatever stage of life you're in. Being trustworthy and honorable, whether that's providing for your family inside the home or outside the home, having food and clothing, all of those tangible items, but also serving and giving to others. And then above all of that, she fears the Lord. She knows that all things come from him and manages her family and household in that knowledge and with gratitude.
The word is always good. I wouldn't consider that passage to be a cliche. Even though it's referred to a lot, I think it's challenging and just a good reminder of what the true expectation for all mothers is to fear the Lord. It's not having a spotless house or throwing the best birthday party or having the most well-behaved children, you know, etc. It's having a heart that wants to serve him, and in doing so, willing to serve others. You know, just what an encouragement.
Yes. And I'm definitely glad it's not about a spotless house, because I would fail every day.
Yes. For me too, like, oh my goodness. I wouldn't even make it on the list.
Not a strength of mine.
Yeah. And as a God-fearing mother leading your household, what are 3 things you want them to know?
3 things. Okay. First and foremost, I want them to know the Lord for themselves. I want them to know that my belief or their dad's belief isn't enough for them. It's their own choice. And I want them to see that my faith is genuine and true, and for them to want that for themselves. We try to talk about God as much as possible, bringing him into those teachable moments, talking about how God provided us for us throughout the day, or how thankful we are for a beautiful day. And on the flip side of the good things, speaking directly about sin, even with my girls being so young, calling a sin, so that they know from an early age.
Yeah. I'm so glad you guys do that, because I think it makes a difference. You know, I've have friends that have had households where like they never talked about God. It was like only at church,
right,
or whatever. And I was like, and I just didn't grow up that way.
Mm-hmm. And I think it makes it awkward too.
Yeah, and it makes it. And I'm like, man, but when you have a household that does talk about God every day, it just kind of makes it natural.
It's
like,
a natural flow of your house, right?
Yeah,
right.
So I'm really glad that you guys do that.
Yeah, I think second, I want them to know for sure how loved they are, and that they're just loved more than they could ever imagine. This looks different for each one, and so how we show love is different, just like the discipline is different. How we show love is different too. And for my oldest, she loves quality time. And then my middle loves to cuddle and is big on words of affirmation, which is personally mine too. So that one's an easy one for me. My youngest, we're still figuring her love language out, but I think she's going to kind of go in the quality time area too.
Okay.
And I think third, I want them to know what a healthy marriage looks like. Varun and I are far from perfect by any means. And so I want them to know that and see that. And one thing that it's a funny thing that my husband and I talk about, but they view him as he can fix anything and everything.
Mr.
And,
Fix It.
Yes, that is him. And they, by the end of the day, will have him a collection of whether it's pictures to tape or something that needs new batteries. They have it all on his bedside table, ready for him when he gets home from work. And I mean, it's something so small, but it's not lost on me that a girl needs her daddy, even for the small things. And even though I can do those things, I can tape a picture, whatever. They don't go to me for those things. They go to their daddy. And so I want them to know that he's always there to do that.
That's just great. I just love how you do that. And also, like, you know, you're talking about love languages there. For those that might not know, like, there is a book written a while back by Gary Chapman. And now you can even take like this quiz and stuff about yourself. Like, there are these 5 different love languages that every person has, you know, according to Gary.
Okay.
You know, old Gary, like he's my friend. You know, you have words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service. What am I missing here? Oh, gift giving
and physical touch.
And physical touch. Yeah. And those 2, the reason I forgot them because they're at the bottom of my list. And in fact, like the way they rank for me is like acts of service for sure. And then words of affirmation, then some quality time, then gift giving. And I guess I got to put it there. Physical touch. That's the very bottom. Yeah. You know, so if you want to learn more about those and learn, you know, like what your love language is or your partner's or your children's, like, you know, go check that out. It's pretty cool stuff. Mm-hmm. And I just love how you know, how supportive you are of Varun and just, you know, letting him be your child's superhero and just modeling that good and healthy marriage, you know, even a not so perfect one, you know, that's important too, mm-hmm. You know, and just a special note on that, like the way my parents did that to make sure that we knew that, I guess not to idealize, you know, marriage and mm-hmm. that perfect whatever, because
our Disney ending.
Because culture does that. Culture has this way of having this false expectations for things. And so my parents, you know, if we were watching TV, they would have paused it and said, "Hey, that's not real life. Actually, like that doesn't happen. That's not." And then they make fun of it, and it was like, oh, y'all guys are ruining the movie.
We just watched the movie.
As I got older, I was really glad they did that because it did kind of break. Right. That's a false expectation. And my mom would even, like, we would listen to some country music, which I like country music a lot. It's
the good old days.
It's a good twang. Okay. You know, but she would just turn it down and say, hey, like men don't do that. Maybe one time, but that's not the norm and don't expect that. And I'm just thankful, you know, that I had that. And it sounds like you and Varun are doing kind of the same stuff.
For sure. And I already tell the girls, my mom told me this growing up, marry someone like your daddy. And that's what I tell my girls because it's so true. I looked for qualities that my dad had, that he was a hard worker and he provided for his family. And that's exactly what I wanted in a husband. And so I tell my girls, marry someone like your daddy. You want someone like your daddy. And one of them took it really to heart, and we've had several pretend weddings, and
oh, that's so sweet.
It was super sweet. She had her dress and her veil, and it was super sweet. But I said, you can't marry him. I know. I just pretend.
You can't practice too much, though.
No.
No. Yeah. So in wanting to guide, you know, your children to the Lord and have their faith be their own, what are some things that you and Varun do to help ensure that?
I think being intentional is just the best thing that you can do. We pray, of course, at meal times, and, you know, that's an easy kind of natural flow of the house, and meal times are super important in our house. But also each night before they go to bed, praying at bedtime looks more like guiding them through a prayer some nights, and then letting them pray independently, which is super sweet, naming all of the things they're thankful for, or one of us might pray too. And so my husband will do a small devotional with them each night, and they look forward to that each night and love that. But we also have a Bible time during the day during our homeschool day. We homeschool, and so that's one of the perks that we do have, that extra big chunk of time to be intentional with them. And so he's going through, it's called 365 Daily Devotions, with them right now. And then I'm actually working through I think it's 40 Reasons to Trust God. And it goes through different names of God. And we also try to memorize scripture. We're working on Psalms 23 right now. The 2-year-old has "The Lord is my shepherd." And I'll ask her, "Do you know any more?" "No." That's okay. And singing hymns, I grew up on hymns like you probably did too.
Yeah, sure.
And so they are definitely incorporated into our day. Even
so is that like music time?
Kind of more of me just singing to them. My youngest will tell me to stop singing and to sing Baby Shark instead. So that's always good, keeping me humble. Yeah. But I do know the majority of moms don't have that big chunk of time during the day like we do as homeschoolers. And so I don't want that to discourage people, because you can use any amount of time that you have to be intentional. And it's just start early with your kids. And even if you have older kids, just start now, start small and then build from it.
Yeah, and like all of that's so good and so true. It doesn't have to be hour-long blocks of the day to make a difference. A little watering every day can cause any plant to grow.
Yes.
And I think for me, like, we just have a 30-minute or even less, time of a bedtime routine, and just make it part of your bedtime routine. Yes. It's not that much more than what you're probably already doing. Mm-hmm. So instead of a Disney book, just read scripture or like tell one of those stories instead.
Right.
Yeah. So is it hard some nights though to get the girls to listen to Varun? Like, cause you mentioned you guys do a daily devotions with them, or what does that kind of look like? For sure.
Some nights are a little bit more chaotic than others, but I think his devotional takes maybe five or so minutes, depending on if he reads it or if my oldest reads it, because she's wanting to read everything now. And then
pros and cons with that.
Definitely. Both are there, but we're trying to teach them how it looks like to pray. And so we may say, okay, you pray for what you're thankful for first, and then you pray for others, ask for forgiveness, and help with something that maybe was hard for you today. And so for 6 and under, that prayer looks super simple, but again, it's just starting somewhere, starting something that they can relate to in their little minds. And then they have that foundation set, and it's not going to go void.
Yeah. I just love that y'all take the time to actually tell them like how to pray. I don't think that happens a whole lot. Like maybe like a lesson in church here and there, maybe, but I think that's really awesome that you're actually teaching them that, so they can be confident and be emboldened to do it more
Again,
often.
Not my idea. It was another mom.
Ooh.
I wish I could say that was my idea, but
man, that's awesome though. Yeah. Well, now more people get to hear it. Maybe they could get to try it for themselves too. So tell me a little bit about that daily devotion that Varun reads. Like, what's the name of it?
It's called 365 Daily Devotions, and I think we picked it up at Blessings, the bookstore.
Okay. Yeah, that local bookstore. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. At a child's level, or?
For sure. Okay. It has a short passage that it goes through the Bible throughout the 365 days. It goes through from Old Testament to New Testament. Cool. And so it has a short story, and then how to relate it to your life, and then something that you can pray, like whether it's thank you, God, for creation or things like that. And so it is very simplistic in terms and relates to the 3 and the 6. I mean, the 4 and the 6, and sometimes the 2.
Yeah. But she's having it model for her too, and just like, okay. And I feel like they just absorb more from their siblings anyways at that age. So
for sure.
And having her 2 older sisters be engaged in that's leaving an impact on her too.
Setting the foundation.
Mm-hmm. So tell me about the I Am book. Like, who wrote that, and how many I Ams are there?
This one found on Amazon, and I have loved it. And so it's I Am 40 Reasons to Trust God. And Diane Stortz wrote it. You can find it on Amazon, and I'm sure anywhere else. But it basically has 40 names of God. And so it'll give you the actual like Elohim or El Shaddai, all of those. Is that Greek or Hebrew? I'm not sure what that would be, but it gives all of those. And then it gives you what it actually means. So one of them, Elohim, creator. The one that we just went through this week was Jehovah Suri, and that's the Lord our rock. And so it relates a biblical story. Jehovah Suri was Joseph and getting sold into slavery, and how God was his rock throughout all of that. And so relating a biblical story to the name and character of God, I think is just so important. And knowing that character of God and how that
I was
can
like, wow,
apply
this is
to
a,
us.
I might have to get this book myself.
I have learned a lot. It's been
Like,
good for all of us.
because what a way to learn the character of God,
Right.
and wow,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It's been a good one for all of us. And so we've been slowly working through it, but it is written for, I think it was like 3 to 10, which it's a little bit higher for my younger, but there's definitely aspects of it that they pick up on. And it's one that I plan to do over and over.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Well, so how are you guys tackling Psalm 23? Do you like ever, sing the Shane and Shane version of that psalm?
I actually played that for them once and they did not like it. I was kind of hurt.
I know. I just love Shane and Shane.
Right. But we have been breaking it up. I think we're probably about a third of the way through. The 2-year-old knows the first line, like I said, but the 4 and the 6-year-old, they are starting to get more and more of it. And so just having that in their minds, and then we probably will move on to the fruit of the Spirit.
Oh,
after
how
this
fun.
one.
Well, they have another song they might like with that one.
They definitely do. That one is ingrained already.
Yay. Yay.
They don't want to be a coconut.
Good. All right. So what do you think the role of big church, children's ministry, and the youth ministry play in parenting?
I think that it plays a big role. One, just setting that foundation that church is a priority. And 2, our church is so intentional about it that they tell us very directly that we are not the sole disciplers of your children. That's your job. We'll come alongside you and equip you and give you the things that you need to be able to do that. But we are not the primary ones. That's your job. And so I love hearing what my girls come home from church saying that they learned. I love that they love church and that we're able to expand on that, whether that's Sunday right after church or Wednesday or throughout the week. We're able to expand on that.
Man, that is sounds just so empowering, like to know that your village, your other family of helpers, the church, is just having their hand in helping to raise your children. Wow. And what's even more importantly, that the church is right there with us, to help us guide, our children to Him.
Yes.
Like it's a weight off, just for me and hopefully others to know that, all that responsibility is shared and not squarely on my shoulders.
Right. And I know all of the ministers at our church are so readily available to just talk through anything with you and equip you and give you ideas for what works for them or what didn't work for them. And so I love that too.
All right. So we're going to close the door on the topic of the church and the God things. So kind of more some fun questions here. So is there anything in being a mom that you feel you could be better at?
Can everything be an answer? I think that, goodness, we are always our hardest critic. Just the questions come at me all the day. Did I do this right? Should I have done something different? Should I have said it better? I should have apologized for this. It's a constant reel in my head, and not so much in a negative way, but just being realistic about it and evaluating what should I have done better. Honestly, current struggles are easily frustrated. With 3 being at home all the time, I can get easily frustrated and sometimes just too harsh at times. But I quickly learned, if you want to know your weaknesses, just ask your kids, what could mama do better? And I promise you, will tell you.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. And more.
Oh, wait.
So what is some advice? You've already given some great advice already, or sharing what you've already been told, but what is some more advice that you would give to a mom in a stage that is below you, mom like me?
I think some days not having those expectations, some days will just look like you survived, and that's okay. That is totally okay. Survival is still another day. And so I think that one of the things that has made a huge difference for me personally is having 2 or 3 other friends that have similar parenting styles or similar foundations. For me, I have friends that are very Christian women that I go to for anything and everything. My mom being one of them, and asking advice and saying, this is what I'm struggling with. How did you address it? Having friends in different stages of parenting too, because come the teenage years, I will need some help for sure, even more so.
Yeah, I feel like, our teaching experience and, we kind of, you start learning the phase you're in, but the new phase is always a whole new ballgame.
Yes, the uncharted territory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, wow, that all just sounds like such great, just sage advice, and it's a good thing to have you in all your contacts, because I might be calling you soon, Sarah, because my son just starting to toddle along, but those words, they're not there yet, but you're telling me that they're going to be.
They're coming.
Oh, boy. Oh. All right. Now, so for more fun questions, what is your favorite part about being a mom?
The cuddles and seeing my kids learn something new. I love seeing them be proud of themselves, and may rock my kids far longer than any sleep training book recommends. Guilty as charged.
It's okay. I mean, Asher slept in bed with us till he was 6 months old. So I know they say not to do that, but I couldn't help it.
I know. They're so fun.
Just precious and squishy.
Squishy.
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
So tell us, what are your favorite things about your mother?
Oh, goodness. There are a ton, but I think probably my favorite thing about her is just that she was always there. She was also a stay-at-home mom. I think I said that earlier. And so growing up, I knew that it did not matter when I needed something, if it was middle of the day or not, she was going to be there. And so her presence meant, and really it just continues to mean so much to me. She actually kept my kids when I was working full time. And so just knowing that they were with her and loved and cared for like I would do, she has just continued to mean the world to me.
Wow, yeah, that does sound very nice. And I'm glad you're able to experience that growing up too. And now you're able to give the same gift to your own girls.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm thankful for that for sure.
So what are the top 3 things that your mother taught you?
I think she taught us that church should always be a priority at church anytime the doors were open. And so setting that foundation of just a solid biblical foundation. And she is a very let your yes be yes and your no be no. And so I learned that for sure. And I think it served well over the years, that if it's not just a absolutely yes, it needs to be a no, and you need to keep that. And then just how to cook and care for a family well. My mom, along with my grandmother, she was the best cook. And then my mom is very, very, very close behind her. Sometimes better on some things, but
but we won't let her know. Yeah. Well, those are all very good things. My mom has taught me a lot too, but cooking just wasn't one of them. I mean, I can make some things, that, she's taught me that. And, she gave me some staple meals like spaghetti and chili and rice and deviled eggs.
Have to have the staples.
Gotta have some of those, the list is a little bit longer than that, but those are the ones I remember. But I will have to rely on watching your videos, Simple Eats with Sarah, to learn.
Oh, goodness.
Yes, I'm relying on you, Sarah. I need the help.
No pressure.
Okay, so one last fun question. What is something your children do that is, quote unquote, weird or maybe annoying that you just love? Like, for example, like, I love the smacking noises that Asher makes while he eats, at least for now. My heart just gushes every time I hear that.
Oh, goodness. For Marion, my middle, I love watching her talk. It's the speech nerd coming out of me for sure. But when she's serious, she will just move her mouth in just this expressive way, and she pops her mouth when she's serious, and I love that. Vera, my youngest, is attached to her blanket, and it is very difficult to wash that thing, so it's disgusting. But she'll take it when she's sleepy or when she needs to calm herself, and she'll just rub it across her lips. And I love watching her do that because it's just so calming to her.
Yeah.
And then Leela, my oldest, we have found out that she is a pack rat. Oh, my word. And it drives me crazy, but it makes me laugh at the same time, because when you move that bed to try to clean it out, you see what she views as important. And it just makes me laugh like, okay, we really have to work on this.
Yeah.
But it's just the funniest things.
Oh, that's just great. Children are such blessings from the Lord.
They are.
Yeah. Well, Sarah, it has been such a pleasure to have you on today. Thank you for sharing all your wisdom.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Yeah. And I've been so encouraged and challenged today. Motherhood is a privilege like no other. May all mothers feel honored this Mother's Day.
My name is Sarah, and this is my story of the middle.
This is your host, Brandy Bostic, and you've been listening to the Up from the Muck podcast.
Psalms 40, verse 2. He brought me up from a desolate pit, out of the muddy clay, and set my feet on a rock, making my steps secure.